Assalamualaikum everyone. Hope you are doing well. Welcome to another session on scholarships. Today I'm going to talk about the PhD journey. That what do you need to think when you're going through your PhD, when you're planning for your PhD, during your PhD and after your PhD. So this is the first part of my presentation. So I will just take you through the whole journey of PhD, and then we'll see what are the different aspects that you need to take care of when you are planning for a PhD. So hopefully this will help you. It's based on my experience that I have also gone through during my PhD, and what factors and also the scenarios and the stories that I heard from other people, that okay, what are the main things that you need to take into account. And these are not basically the stories that are actually told by people, but you can see that you can see, or you can experience by yourself when you are like doing PhD with your colleagues, with your friends, that what are they going through, what are you going through. And so all these experiences then basically you can relate, and it gives you some idea that okay, what are the different factors that are really important when you are applying for a PhD or when you're going through a PhD, and what should you take into account. So this is the first part before PhD. So there I have mentioned here 4 points. Uh, that what The first one is finances. First of all, if you want to do a PhD, you need to think about like, okay, you need PhD program is normally a duration of 3 years. That is the minimum duration that is normally considered in most parts of the world, but it can even go beyond 3 years. So the most important thing, first of all, before going for anything, you need to think about finances, like how are you going to finance your PhD. And in actual, basically in practice, most of the PhD students, they basically complete their PhD on scholarships, right? They apply for scholarships, and there are a lot of funding opportunities. Then you can go through my other videos about these funding opportunities. So and if you want to finance your own, it's rarely I've seen people like who have financed their PhDs and who are completing their PhDs on their own expenses. It's because it's very expensive, because you need to stay in for 3 years in the university. You also need to pay for your coursework. Then you also need to pay for other things like related to research, data collection, data analysis, or if you want to purchase any software or things like that, or do any experiments, or logistics and all those things. So it becomes very expensive. So most of the students, they prefer to do a PhD on scholarships. So it's the most easiest or convenient or suitable way to go for a PhD program. Otherwise, if you are not financially that strong, you should not think of going for a PhD. That is the first and foremost thing that you should think about when starting a PhD or before doing a PhD. The next one is then there are three aspects. First of all, topic selection, supervisor selection, university selection. So topic selection. So most of the students, normally they have already done their MPhil or masters and before applying for a PhD. So already most of the students, they think okay, what they have done during masters, they normally have plans to take it to their PhD. Why topic selection is important? Because you always need to write a research proposal. So writing a research proposal, basically you need to think about some topic, and that topic is should be, there are certain criteria that okay, we should follow, like that topic should be interesting, it should be relevant, right, to the themes or the scope of the PhD program that you're applying for, and it should have some significance, right? It should make some actual contribution to the existing body of knowledge. And so it should be something that might interest the people like who are going to select you for the scholarship for that specific program. uh, okay, in certain cases the topic is really important, like certain universities, they think about the research proposal that on the topic on which you decide to go for a PhD, they really are more concerned about the research proposal. But in some cases the research proposal is not considered that much important. It has some weightage actually, but it's not that, it doesn't mean like it accounts like most, like 80 or 90% of the selection criteria. Most of the time, like research proposal counts some portion of the selection criteria, so it varies. Sometimes the weightage is more on your past background, your grades and your publications and your past research work. So if that is a strong area, maybe there are higher chances that even if your topic is not that much appealing, you might get selected. But in some cases, some universities or some people like who are looking at the applicants, they give more weightage to the research proposal. So then you need to write a very compelling, a very strong research proposal, and it should be like the state of the art in your area of interest. So the topic selection is very important, and this is the first and more thing that you need to think about before starting a PhD. Now, regarding topic selection, sometimes people, I already said, they select the work that they've already done during their master's. Sometimes it's not relevant, and they need to look for, because when you're looking for scholarships, it does not mean that you will always find the area that you're looking for. Sometimes you need to just deviate a bit from your original path, somewhat relevant. For example, you have done electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, and then you have to select some specific area or somewhat relevant, for example computer engineering, and you get a PhD in the area of computer engineering. So maybe your background is electrical engineering, but still it's somewhat relevant to the courses or that you studied during your previous masters or undergrad degrees. They are somewhat relevant to that area, and maybe you need to somewhat change your path a bit. So first thing is that, okay, your topic, either you can, if you're very lucky, if you get a topic that you can continue what you have already done in your undergrad or masters in your PhD as well. And if you have a good research background, sometimes you need to like think about a new topic, and then you need to go through various research articles or literature review, and you need to look for some article that is compelling in order to secure scholarship. Now, it is very important to understand that always don't just go for the sake of scholarship, because sometimes you select a topic and then if it is not of interest to you, then later on you won't be able to like feel that much motivated when you are doing your PhD. You might feel problems when you are like trying to like complete your PhD, because you don't have that much interest in your topic, but initially you selected it just to get the scholarship and just to get into the university and then just to start your PhD. So this is a very important thing. You need to understand that. Never just take your time and just think about in which areas you are interested, and then based on that you need to understand, okay, this is what I want to do and I really like this topic. And because PhD is more like it's a roller coaster, so you will have to go through a lot. If the topic is of not interest to you, or if you are not motivated, or if you're not interested in that, it might be very hard for you basically to further continue in that area. So just take your time, take a lot of time in searching for the relevant topic, and basically deciding, okay, you're really interested in this topic and this is what excites you and you want to go for it. So this is also a very important thing that you need to consider when you're selecting the topic. So based on my experience, I have seen that, okay, sometimes my colleagues or some people like friends like who did not select the topic properly, they some later stages they find a lot of difficulties, and then a later stage when you want to change the topic in your PhD, then again you need to go through a lot of exercise and all those things. So it's very important that you're very clear about what you want to do, and it's of interest to you, and you are really like you have some knowledge or prior interest in that specific area. Okay, the second one, supervisor selection. Okay, before you start your PhD, supervisors are also very important part of your PhD. In fact, you would have seen maybe a lot of posts on Facebook or on other areas. Like for example, it's not important the university, but it's more important is the supervisor who is going to supervise you for your PhD. Because a kind supervisor or a supervisor who is supportive and helpful, your PhD will be much more easier to complete as compared to somebody like who is not that supportive, or who is not that kind, or who is not relevant to your area of expertise, or who cannot like provide you enough guidance during your PhD. So be very careful when this thing is also very important when you are selecting a supervisor. Just look for what he has done, over the years in his area, and maybe you can also get some guidance from his PhD students or from people like who have done PhD under his supervision. Maybe you can also get some guidance from them, like how what kind of person this is and how is he, as a PhD supervisor. And also maybe when you get a chance to talk to him during your interviews or before starting your PhD, like for example when you are going through the process, you can also get some idea like, okay, what kind of person that guy is. In my experience, I think if supervisor needs to be very supportive and very kind, and he should understand because the student is going through a lot during his PhD. So at sometimes it's like students get emotional, students get distressed, students get a lot of difficulties because so in those scenarios, if the supervisor is not that supportive or he puts like unnecessary pressure on you, then it's not good for your PhD, and also students struggle a lot during their PhD. So supervisor selection is also very, very important. First of all, make sure that he is the topic that you have selected, he has some expertise in that area, because sometimes it happens, okay, you select a topic and the supervisor also doesn't have expertise in that area, and then you struggle because he doesn't know anything also about that topic and you don't know anything as well, and then it's like a kind of learning curve for both supervisor and the student, and then it becomes hard basically to. And sometimes even you are lucky, you get some guidance from other people, but it's if you have a supervisor who knows all those things, it's much easier to start your PhD. And to know, he can help you a lot in understanding different things. He can guide you like, okay, who to approach, which articles to read, which people to approach, and things like that. Secondly, supervisor should be supportive. He should be like uh, emotionally, like he support you, he should understand your concerns, so he should be kind enough. So this is also very, very important aspect, because sometimes the supervisors, they think, okay, they expect a lot from the students, and then they put some kind of deadlines on the students, like, okay, you need to do this, give me this article, or give me, I want a research paper by the end of year one or something like that. So sometimes, and then they don't give you any relaxation or things like that, and they don't understand like the reasons behind that, and then it becomes really stressful for the students. So you need to be very careful and in supervisor selection as well. University selection, sometimes now it depends on the scholarship. Sometimes people like they just apply for the scholarship, and then if that relevant, they don't even look into the universities. Okay, they just see, okay, this scholarship is offered, and they apply for their scholarships, and then they don't see, okay, which university is it or what is the ranking and things like that. So I think if you compare the supervisor selection as compared to university selection, I would rather give more weightage to supervisor, because even the research areas, so maybe the ranking of the university is not that good, but the research work being conducted or the labs operating in that university, they are really good, and they are like state of the art, and they are world renowned laboratories. So it depends. So sometimes university selection is not that important. Of course, sometimes it depends, but people give different weightages to different aspects. So in my opinion, I think you should think more about like the research group that you're going to, rather than looking into the university ranking and things like that. Because if the research group is strong and they're publishing some, or they're doing some very good work, it doesn't matter like what is the ranking of the university and things like that. Similarly, as I said, university are sometimes important, but I think when students are looking for scholarships, they are not taking account the ranking of the universities. Of course, ranking of the universities matter when you, for example, complete your PhD. Nowadays, there are a lot of like when after you finish your PhD, you see like when the job application or job advertisements, they say that, okay, you should complete your PhD from top 100 universities in the QS ranking. So sometimes like nowadays, yes, a little bit those things matter as well, the university ranking, but then you should also think about like where you get the opportunity. So it's not no hard and fast rule. It depends on the opportunities that you get. So if you get a good research group, and if you get a good university with higher ranking, then it's like, I think the best outcome that you can have, or the best thing for you. But for example, even if supervisor, your research group is very good, university ranking is not good, then it's also fine, doesn't matter that much, so don't worry too much about that. Or if your university ranking is too good and maybe the research work or the research group is not that good, still it could be somewhat like okay. So I mean, there are pros and cons in these scenarios, but don't worry too much about university selection and things like that. But yes, it does matter nowadays, as I already said, that when people recruit, like for example, for faculty position, they look at the ranking of the universities as well. These are some of the points that I think that are very important when you are basically before starting your PhD. You should think about these points.